All around the globe, people are turning salt water into drinking water. Sounds like a great idea for Southern California too, don't you think? Some folks say, think again. That proposed desalination plant in Huntington Beach cleared another legal hurdle recently, but lots of opposition remains, and not just from environmentalists. Even some water officials say this plant is a bad idea. What gives? We'll get different takes from two top water officials, Brett Barbre of the Metropolitan Water District and Pierre Swan of the Irvine Ranch Water District. They're next on Inside OC. Inside OC is brought to you by...
Each new community 5 Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. 5 Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
Chapman University is a proud sponsor of Inside OC and community programming. Okay.
Pierre's representative.
Very good. Sounds good. Hi, I'm Rick Reiff, and I'm talking with Brett Barbre and Pierre Swan. Gentlemen, great to have you on. I can't think of two better people to talk water with than you two. And Pierre, thanks so much. Talk about above and beyond the call of duty. Viewers might notice there's some a bandage there over your eye. 10 stitches.
10 stitches.
2 days ago.
It was. And I was, I took a fall from my wife. My wife wanted to climb up a ladder to take a vacuum up ants off the ceiling. I took her place. I didn't want her to get hurt. And here I am.
The idea wasn't to take the fall for her. You just wanted to take the ants for her, but you fell. Well, listen.
That's right, I did.
And I know you called me and I said, Pierre, if you can go, we still want you on. So thanks so much. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
All right.
It's fun.
So before we get into this desalination plant, just for viewers, sometimes talking about water can get very, very confusing. There's all these agencies. There's your agency, Brett, the Metropolitan Water District. Kind of just in as simply as possible, explain what these different layers are and what they do.
Sure. The Metropolitan Water District was formed in the 1920s to build the Colorado River Aqueduct to bring supplemental water into Southern California. So we built Lake Havasu, Parker Dam, and we eventually created sub-agencies because we didn't want just cities on the board. We wanted agencies, we wanted a minimal number of folks.
And we always know the more agencies, the better,
That's right.
Yeah.
So the Metropolitan Board has 38 board members, and we represent 20 million customers in Southern California. We deliver anywhere from 1.7.
Right, and you're delivering water basically from Northern California and from the Colorado River.
That's
so
correct.
you're the agency that passes through, that delivers this water. Okay, all right, and you're on two boards. You're on the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California and the Metropolitan Water District of Orange County. What's the difference?
So Metropolitan formed municipal water agencies underneath them to provide regional delivery of water. So that's Municipal Water District of Orange County. The Orange County Water District is the groundwater guardian, so they're in charge of the Santa Ana River and the Santa Ana River Basin. So Metropolitan and MoDOC sell water, supplemental water, to Orange County Water District that they put into the groundwater basin.
And we'll be invoking their name quite a bit, I think, the Orange County Water District, which is really that's an agency that acts as the they distribute groundwater, basically? Or
what? They're the guardians of the groundwater basin, and so they manage agencies in basically North Orange County. MoDOC is countywide, so we represent the entire
And so
county.
then, in addition, so now we've got these water agencies. There's 19 of them, right?
There are 19 within OCWD.
Within Orange County, Orange County.
Just within OCWD.
Yeah.
And there are 12 cities and 7 water districts.
Right, but we got a lot. We got a whole lot of water agencies.
And there are 28 agencies countywide within MoDOC. Yeah.
Okay, and one of those is yours, Pierre. The
IRWD.
Irvine.
It is probably the largest geographical district and probably in total consumption the largest customer. So we're the largest customer of Orange County Water District. We're about third or fourth with MODOC because we've reduced
And universally loved by all the other water districts, too.
When you go outside the county, that's true. But when you find you're up against another district and your rates are half what their rates are, there's always some sort of ill will.
You are, in Orange County terms, you're sort of like the New York Yankees of water. Would that be a
No,
fair,
I'd rather be the Red Sox.
No.
I mean,
Okay,
we're
well,
both
that's only
Red Sox
because you're a
fans.
Red Sox fan.
We're both
Okay.
Red Sox.
All right,
They're
decent enough analogy. Okay,
But
all right.
the Yankees was fair.
Thank you for explaining a little bit about how this water winds up getting, and we're going to be looking at a chart shortly that also emphasizes that basically the two biggest sources are these rivers, but even bigger in Orange County overall is this groundwater, but it depends on where you live in Orange County.
Right.
Basically either groundwater or river water is where our water is coming from. Okay, so now let's talk about the Desal plant, and to do that, just to set it up, let's look at an excerpt from a report that my PBS SoCal colleague David Nazar recently did on his show, Sustaining California.
Water is to California what oxygen is to humans. The state could not exist without it. So when a private company called Poseidon Water decided to build a desalination plant in the city of Carlsbad in San Diego County 20 years ago, they were onto something. Desalination is a process of turning salty ocean water into drinking water, using what's called reverse osmosis. The water can then be put in city pipes as tap water. This is basically the same system used to create some bottled water you get at your local store. And desal is used all over the world in places like Israel, Australia, and South America, and now here in Carlsbad. In 2012, construction began on this billion-dollar project. 3 years later, it was completed. Today, the Carlsbad desalination plant has already produced over 25 billion gallons of drinking water.
It's the largest seawater desalination plant in the Western Hemisphere. It's capable of producing 50 million gallons per day of drinking water from the Pacific Ocean. That's enough water for about 400,000 people.
Poseidon has plans for another billion-dollar desal project, this one in Orange County's famed Surf City, USA, Huntington Beach. Poseidon wants to build next to this old steam generating plant on Pacific Coast Highway, just south of the iconic Huntington Beach Pier.
So in Huntington Beach, we're in the final phase of the permitting process. We anticipate that we'll successfully obtain all the permits that we need to build the facility by the end of 2018. About 3 years to build the facility.
Poseidon's Huntington Beach project has been met with all kinds of challenges and obstacles over the last decade, partly from angry environmentalists who've been trying to stop the project, arguing that desalination harms the ocean, seafloor, and marine life. The company says their design includes using pipes fitted with mesh screens a width of a dime or credit card to bring in the water and keep the sea life out so nothing gets harmed. However, environmentalists, like former Huntington Beach Mayor Debbie Cook, are concerned about things like all the fish larvae and fish eggs that are going to be killed when the water is extracted through the screens.
Well, a credit card is pretty thick still when you're considering the kind of marine life we're talking about, the phytoplankton, the plankton, the larvae, all of that. And it can absolutely get through a credit card size screen. Remember, the reverse osmosis membrane is a death chamber for all marine life. It kills everything that gets sucked in.
Cook and many other critics are also angry because they say desal is the most energy-intensive way to produce water.
Most people think we need to conserve energy because producing energy puts a lot of carbon in the atmosphere, of which the ocean is the biggest sink. And that's one of the reasons it's warming so dramatically. We have to have the ocean or we will not survive on this planet.
Okay, so there's a kind of a setup there. We saw the some of the environmental tension that's going on, and I've covered that on previous shows. I've had both Debbie Cook and Scott Maloney, who people saw in that report. I've had them on the show. On this one, I thought it'd be cool to have two water officials like yourselves talking more about practicality, feasibility, and cost. Anything about that report, though, that you want to comment on?
Well, we would say that IRWD supports all sorts of desal. We've been doing desal ourselves on groundwater for years now, probably 10, 15 years. And that water comes out at the same price as MWD water. The ocean desal water is quite a bit more expensive. It's, OCWD buys water at $700. The San Diego, which is the closest comparison on desal, is $2,300. That's more than 3 times more expensive.
Okay, so let's talk about that. Irvine Ranch Water District is one of only 2 water districts that has come out against it. That doesn't mean all the other water districts have endorsed this project. Many of them have, but a lot of them are on the fence right now, or they just haven't expressed. But Irvine Ranch has said no. Why is that?
Well, actually, you got to take a step back. About 5, 6, 7 years ago, MODOC was the leader in putting desal together, and they brought all the
That's
technical
the Metropolitan
of Orange County
Water District, which Brett's on the board of, and they brought in all their people, their technical people, not the political people, the technical people, and when it came push to shove, out of the 56,000 acre feet of water, the technical people would only sign up for about 10 or 11,000 acre feet. So they generally were of the opinion that this was not needed and it was too expensive.
Okay.
Now it's gone to the political thing, which is over at OCWD. The technical people are out of it, it's all political.
Okay, Brett, what about that?
Well, I look at it from the Southern California regional level. At Metropolitan, we serve 20 million people, so we have to look regionally. By 2040, we're going to have 3 million more people in Southern California, which means we're going to need more local resources. The State Water Project, those deliveries are going to be diminished. Colorado River imports are going to be diminished. So there's going to be a greater emphasis on the development of local resources. There's a preference at Met for the local resources to be developed within the Met service area, because we have earthquakes and we have catastrophes like that. So it's better to have the water in our own service area. So 10 to 15% of our water by 2040 will come from desalination plants, like Huntington Beach, like Dana Point, like Carlsbad, maybe one up in LA, maybe one up in Ventura. But we're going to need those sources of water moving forward, because there's litigation after litigation that's restricting our supply coming from the state and from Colorado.
But those percentage numbers are Brett's numbers. Those are not official NWD
But let
numbers.
me ask you, Pierre, and you can, because much of the argument that I've seen that Irvine Ranch Water District is made basically boils down to, we don't need it. We have plenty of other sources of water. We're here in Southern California. I mean, if we have enough water, why do we have these water curfews all the time where you can't sprinkle? People are changing to drought-resistant plants because the old green plants are all brown now, and it almost seems totally counterintuitive that we don't need more water in Southern California.
Well, Met has never run out of water in the entire
So you're saying we have plenty of water?
And after 11 years of extremely dry times, they still had 900,000 acre feet of water in storage, which was over half a year's water
Then why do we
supply.
tell people they can't sprinkle?
Well, we had a governor come up and say you have to reduce by 25% because the northern part and the central part of the state was really short water.
And how about that? Isn't central? I mean, certainly statewide we need water. I think farmers in the Central Valley would say we need water, wouldn't
Well,
they?
and that's fine. That's Central Valley, but Matt. My grandfather worked for him for 35 years and ran the distribution system. So I'm pretty familiar. I was on the board there. Met has done a really good job. They built a huge amount of storage. They have about 2.5 million acre feet of water in storage today. So they can get by these. They've made these dry times. They have made that investment in storage. Orange County Water District has this huge basin underneath us. It holds 60 million acre feet of water. We use about 350.
So
60 million acre feet of water? No,
we're talking about acre feet. They're probably confusing people.
So that's the total water
But
supply.
Brett, let me ask you, what
60
about that then? Do we, I guess I'll ask you, Pierre's saying we have the water, then I'm dumbfounded because I'm saying then how come we're told we can't water our lawns, or we can only water them on certain days and things, and we get into droughts? What gives?
So Pierre is correct. The state has been very deleterious to our water supply. They have done everything they can to drive down. You've heard me say many times before that the state believes swimming pools and green grass cause droughts, which they don't. We need more storage in the state. We're doing the California Water Fix so we can move water around the state more efficiently. But long term, we're still going to need the water here. I'm a little frustrated with Irvine Ranch because they're spending a couple $100 million buying farmland in Central California to set up land banking and groundwater banking there without an ability to move it here. Once again, Metropolitan's preference is investing and building those facilities in our service area.
Well, I saw you jump up when Brett said that, but you know that Scott Maloney, who is the the GM of the Poseidon project, we saw him in the report. He has said that the only reason Irvine Ranch is against it is because your plans are to be a provider of water and that you want to start selling water to other districts, and you see the Poseidon project as competition.
Well, I'm certainly love to come back to another session and talk extensively about the Strand Ranch project, in which we made an investment that was a relatively modest investment compared to the Ocean Desal that provides this virtually the same amount of water per year, extraordinary supply, not subject to offset, as the Poseidon plant effectively does during allocation. We did it at a tiny fraction of the cost, and everyone else could do the same thing. This is just wasting taxpayer money and ratepayer money by doing this. So wait a minute, let me finish.
But I disagree with you, Pierre, because
it's too expensive. We don't need it. It's too expensive. It takes a lot of energy to produce this water. You've just shut down San Onofre. We're putting a new demand in an area that's short power. And the term sheet, has OCWD in charge of, responsible for the energy cost.
What about Pierre's argument? I think what he's saying is, well, maybe in Central Valley they need desal, but we don't need it here. We have plenty of water.
Well, you can store all the water you want in Central Valley, but you have no way of getting it to Southern California. Just as Metropolitan, we have a limit on the Colorado River Aqueduct of 1.2 million acre feet. We can back up 5 million acre feet of water into Lake Mead if we want to, but we still can only move the capacity of that conveyance. The pipes are only so big, so the preference from the Metropolitan perspective is everything should be developed in the local area, because we are going to have an earthquake that'll sever the State Water Project, that'll sever the Colorado River Aqueduct, and so we need storage in Southern California, and we need the development of local resources. And yes, Pierre has spent a lot of money on that. Their perspective is different. When you're a local agency, and Pierre, you've said this many times at meetings, your job as a retail agency is to figure out how to game the system to the benefit of your ratepayers, and that's fine. You can afford to do that. You only have to deliver 78,000 acre feet a year to your customers. Metropolitan has to be responsible for at least 1.7 million acre feet of water. So we have to look regionally at the big picture. And this is part of the long-term regional supply for Southern California.
Let's take a look at something
based on Met's numbers
for viewers. This is certainly admittedly a simplification, but it kind of demonstrates where we get our water from in Orange County. And you can see in North and Central Orange County, which includes Irvine, 2.5 million users, 75% from groundwater. There's actually more in that groundwater than just groundwater. But Northern California, Colorado River, 25%. But look at South Orange County, 60,000 users, 10% from groundwater, and 90% from the Northern California, Colorado River. And I would think long-term, Pierre, that's not the most reliable source of water. So even within Orange County, depending on where you are in Orange County, it seems like desalination might be a more pressing need.
Well, this is, that's a perception that you have. But the fact is that Met, in its entire history, has never run out of water. The water has always been available, except for very short times when there was a problem, like with the outlet structure or the Deemer plant shut down. You were always able to buy water. Orange County was always able to buy all the water they wanted. What Met does is they ration water, and if you go over a certain amount, they charge you more. And even in periods of allocation, if you go over your allocation, then you get charged a penalty, about $3,000 an acre foot.
Well, I get that with Irvine Ranch, it's about the cost, and you feel that you guys have done a good job with the district, and that you're going to, as I understand it, when the desal plant, if it happens and it comes online, costs will go up. It's going to raise the bill, admittedly. Everybody admits that people will be paying more for that desalinated water. Estimates are like $3 to $6 a month
Well,
on a bill.
It costs IRWD $10 million a year to pay for something we don't need.
Right.
And
Well,
our response has always been that, hey, if you cut us out and don't put us in the program, we're perfectly
right.
happy.
And so what about that? What about that idea, Brett? That if Irvine wants out, if some other water company doesn't want to be a part of it, and in fact, the Golden State Water Company, which is a private company,
Right.
that what do they serve? Placentia and
The Placentia a little bit in the hills. Los Alamitos.
They're the other agency
Cypress.
that has. Now they say they're all for desal. They think it's wonderful, but they don't like the idea that you can't opt out. In other words,
Right.
you shouldn't be forced to be in it. They have some problems with this, with the non-binding agreement. They don't like it. So they're saying, we love desal, but we think that we should each district should be able to opt in or opt out. So, and that's clearly what Irvine wants to do. What's wrong with that?
Well, and once again, Irvine has the ability of saying we don't want to buy that water, which they can make it. They could buy all their water from Met. They could buy it all from OCWD. They could do whatever they want. They have that ability. At the Met level, we don't. We have a responsibility to provide water to everybody when they ask. So we have to be prepared. 10 years ago, the city of Santa Monica, which was almost 100% dependent on their groundwater, they had a contamination in their basin, so they had to roll 100% onto Met. Met has to be there. Met is a great insurance policy for everybody.
Yeah.
So, but the issue that you heard Pierre explain about if you buy too much Met water, you go into different tiers. He just described the Irvine Ranch tier system, which they tell you how much water they think you should use, how many times you can flush your toilet,
We're talking
how
about
many times you
desal
can take
here.
a shower. But the whole point of it is it's all interrelated, Pierre, because you're with an agency that likes to tell people how much water they can use. At our level, we don't want to tell people how much water they can use. Our job is just to provide the water so that when they turn on the faucet, the water is there. We're not going to tell them what kind of water you can use.
That's not true.
Well, of course it is, Pierre.
Met has a three-tiered system. They have Tier 1, Tier 2, which is more
You know what?
expensive,
Yeah.
and then they have the
We're getting into the
over-allocated.
weeds. We're getting into the weeds.
We're getting just a little too much into the weeds there.
He has to know his own
Right.
district.
Here's something that I did want to bring up.
Very well.
This is kind of and these are not the only hurdles that the Poseidon plant still has, because there's also a lawsuit that's already been filed, and no doubt there will be others. But late last year, they got approval from the State Lands Commission. I see a certain irony in a Lands Commission approving a water project, but I'm sure there's a good reason for that. Then they got just recently the non-binding agreement with the Orange County Water District, still on their list.
A term sheet. That's
a term sheet. It's right. Okay. And then later this year, they're hoping to get or they need the approval of the Santa Ana Regional Water Quality Control Board, maybe sometime late this year or next year. Finally, I would see this as a big one, the California Coastal Commission. So let me ask each of you.
One more. They have to go to Met and get the Met board to approve the subsidy for the deal.
So that's one more box they need to check. Let me ask you, Pierre, do you think this project is going to happen?
I would hope not. And that's why I'm here and why I'm working really hard.
And you don't want to say whether you think it will happen or not?
Ultimately, we may do ocean desal. The technology is changing a lot. If you don't need it right now, and we really believe you don't need it, there are many alternative projects at a fraction of the cost. In the future, the plant is still there, the pipes are still there. You can buy the site, take that off. If you really need it, 2 or 3 years, you can have a plant up and operating. But you don't need it now. The technology will be better and cheaper.
Okay, Brett, your thoughts. Do you think it will happen?
I think it'll happen. It's going to have to happen because we absolutely will need that.
Do you think it'll happen
in the
in like the 2022 time frame?
I would say in the next 10 years you'll see Poseidon.
In the next 10 years?
In the next 10 years, Poseidon will be built. You'll see a desal plant in Dana Point. You may see one underway in LA County. So desal really is for the future. We're not going to run out of ocean anytime soon.
Right. And so, I guess I will belabor this point because I know we bandied this about. I still don't have a clear answer. I'm a simple man. Please explain to me Pierre, I'll start with you. If we've got enough water in Orange County, does Irvine Ranch ever put restrictions on people on when you can water or things like that? Why have those restrictions if we've got enough water?
Hey, the only restrictions we had on people were the restrictions that the state mandated that every district has to have. We did not have water police like other people did.
So you're saying it's political. We have enough water and it's political.
And it's driven by money, and if you follow the money, you'll understand how this works.
And Brett, what do you say? Why do we have restrictions if we've got plenty of water?
The state of California likes to control people's lives. I've said they want to do for our water what they've done for our roads. And the roads are a disaster right now.
And I agree.
And we need more storage. If you really want to look at it, and I'll send you a pie chart if you want to put it into this, we get 200 million acre feet of water into the state of California each year. 100 million automatically goes right back into the rivers and oceans. Of that, we get 10 million acre feet for humans.
Thank you, gentlemen. This has been illuminating. I'm still as confused as ever, but thanks so much for coming on. And that's it for now. Thanks again to my guests, Brett Barbre and Pierre Swan. You can watch this show and past shows by going to pbssocal.org or rickreiff.com. You can also catch our shows in our post-show open mic chatter, and I'm sure we'll have some of it right now on YouTube. And follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for watching. We'll see you again on Inside OC.
Each new community Five Point brings to life represents a promise delivered. Great neighborhoods are more than just places to live, they are places to connect. Five Point is a proud sponsor of public television and community programming.
All your life, people talk about what's best for you. But to most people, it's just that. Talk. Unless you're with Memorial Care, a healthcare system devoted to one important thing: what's best for you.